haere mai. Welcome to this council meeting of the 29th of June 2023. Welcome to elected members, councillors and community board chairs here in the room today. Our Chief Executive, Darren Edwards, council staff, Democracy Services who will be running this meeting. Welcome, Steffi. And we have Martin Halliday zooming in today. So I'll move now to the council blessing. Kim Tahiwi will be doing that for us today.
Kia ora tātou. Ia mātou e whiriwhiri ana i ngā take kei mua i o mātou aroaro, e pono ana mātou ka kaha tonu ki te whakapau māhara hua pai mō ngā hāpuri e mahi nei mātou. Me kaha hoki mātou katoa kia whaihua kia tōtika tō mātou mahi, mā te maia te tiro whakamua me te hihiri ka taia te arahi i roto i te kotahitanga me te aroha.
Kia ora, thank you, Kim. Just before we start this meeting, I'd just like to acknowledge the passing of Jill Stansfield. This is the first council meeting since she passed away. Jill was very, very active, particularly around older persons issues and accessibility issues. She had a deep belief in equality and equal rights for all. And she was a regular attendee of council meetings, often taking us to task over our work programs, and she will be hugely missed by many in the community. So condolences to her family and all who knew her. I'll move on now to apologies. I have apologies from Andre Baker, Hure Waipaki and Denise Harpiter, who are all unwell today and unable to attend, and we wish them a speedy recovery. Do I have a mover for those apologies? Moved by Councillor Warwick, seconded by Councillor Pravanov. All in favour, please say aye. Aye. That's carried. Do we have any declarations of interest relating to agenda items today? There don't appear to be any. We don't have anything for items 5 or 6. Do we have our public speaker? No, we don't have anybody for public speaking. Item 8, do we have any leave of absence that people would like to share with the group today? No, they can always be lodged through the Mayor's office. Any matters of an urgent nature? I haven't been advised of any. Mayor's report, I've circulated a list of activities. I'd just like to highlight one thing from that list, and that's the 50th anniversary of the mighty Waikanai Lions Club, which was on Saturday night. And what a huge amount of work they've done over that 50 years, raising over $1.5 million that's gone into our community. And also just provide that kind of comfort of a strong organisation who are there to support us, particularly as we face an uncertain future. So thanks for all the work that they do. Item 10, reports. So we have a momentous occasion today, the adoption of our annual plan. Who do we have to come to the table? Mark de Haast. We'll just wait for him to approach. Thank you, Mark. Take it away.
Kia ora, everybody. So yes, today is your decision to hopefully adopt the annual plan. In terms of the procedure under legislation, council must first adopt the annual plan, and thereafter we can actually set the rates. So I'll take the report as read. I guess just some key points to note is that the average rates increase is 7.8%. As per discussions, we did do a comprehensive information campaign that lasted, I think it was from the 26th of April to the 26th of May. It was an information campaign, so it wasn't consultation, and that was because the workshops that we'd done with yourselves, we had decided to stick largely to year 3 of the long-term plan. There's no changes to levels of service, no changes to strategic outcomes, and we did a review of the budgets to ensure that we could stick to what we planned to do in year 3. So it was an information campaign, but we did receive feedback from 5 members of the public, which is summarised in the covering report. So with all that, there's nothing really further to highlight, and would go straight to questions.
Thank you. Any questions from elected members? Councillor Coe.
Yes, look, I just, Councillor Halliday actually reminded me that we did have an agreement when we cancelled the Te Urahi project to undertake some further work streams to replace that. And we have allocated in the annual plan 150,000 for telling Kapiti story. But I did raise with the public art panel the other day the concept of spending some money on the place Te Urahi for telling that iwi story, and it struck me that actually I'm not sure that we have funding in the annual plan for that project. Can you please clarify whether we have allocated funds for that?
Sean Mallon will respond to that.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Sorry. Good morning, everyone. So there are 2 funds. There is $150,000 that was retained as capital expenditure for telling that story on the site, I guess, in terms of McLean Park, and then there's the additional $150,000 that was operational funding that was to go towards the wider, I guess, economic development, sort of that space in terms of telling that story. So yes, there is funding there.
Right.
Thank you. Mark, did you have something to add?
Yes, yes, please, Your Worship. Just some new additions to the annual plan document is Vision 2060. So the top 10 priorities for 23-24. Those are highlighted in the annual plan, and just to assure you that we do have the budget and the resource to deliver on the 23-24 top 10 priorities. And just in the CapEx section, we've provided more detail. You would have seen there's a lot more information on what the budget is for the year, and particularly with our capital projects, you can see if money's been brought forward or carried over from 23-24. You can see if there's been an increase, if there's IAF funding. So we have heard you in the workshops that you wanted the detail to see how we get to the budget for the year compared to the long-term plan. So we have widened that. The annual plan is not a document where you show the total budget for the project. It is an annual plan, so it does need to show the budget for the year. And under legislation, we do need to show the difference between what we've got in the annual plan compared to the long-term plan. The long-term plan is our strategic document where we show overall budgets. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you. I've got Councillor Halliday on Zoom. We'll just wait for him to be unmuted.
Thank you. Through the chair. So I'm just getting a bit used to using these headphones, but they make it very, very easy to hear you guys. I just wanted to actually, can you hear me okay?
No, we can't hear you very well, Martin. I'm not sure if it's at your end or our end.
Is that any better?
Oh, can you swing your mic down on your headphones, maybe? I think it's swung up.
I actually don't have a mic on my headphone. Hang on.
Maybe just lean in and speak slowly, because we can just hear you.
That's not good enough. Just give me a second. I might just actually.
Well, that fixed it. That fixed it. Oh, he's back. No, take two.
Just take your time.
Is that any better?
Much better.
Yeah, okay. I'll just pop those over there. That didn't work. Look, I actually just wanted to build a little bit on Councillor Coe's comment with regards to the Urihi funds. I mentioned this when we discussed that project, is the actual motion didn't cancel the project, it just unwound the project. There was still funding in that budget. My apologies that I've just been busy, didn't get the opportunity to discuss this further, but we still wanted some outcomes. The community still wanted some outcomes down in that area. They just weren't the outcomes that were currently in the pipeline. Is that a conversation to be having moving into the coming year, if you like, rather than here as such? But I did want to flag it as a concern.
So the question is it a conversation that we have potentially?
Well, it appears to me that the funds have been removed. That was a budget line in the previous, or as part of the long-term plan. Again, the project wasn't cancelled. That was, I don't know why it was said it was cancelled. The project was stopped and it was unwound. But we still want to see some results down there and a better situation than what is currently there. We just weren't very impressed with the project that was in train as such.
The Chief Executive will respond.
Certainly.
Try to add to what the staff have already said.
Thanks, Your Worship. So my recollection that the project was stopped, and with that went the funding. What we have committed to, and just building on the back of Councillor Coe's query, is that there is some funding in there that will continue, and that will be part of the annual plan process. But as far as the big pocket of money that's sat there, that's gone.
Okay. Thank you for the answer. Could I just ask at some stage that the actual motion be revisited? And you might be surprised to see that that's not what the actual motion said. But if I could, but we'll just leave that for now if you don't mind. And but I would like that to be revisited.
Thanks, Martin. We are in question time. We'll park this conversation and get some clarity around that. In the meantime, we've had an assurance that there is funding to do the work that was identified within those motions. So I think we'll carry on.
Thank you.
Now. Thanks, Martin. So I'm not seeing any more questions. So we've got some recommendations on page 6 of Council agenda, the most important being adopting the 23-24 annual plan, also a couple of amendments to some fees, delegating myself, the Deputy Mayor and Chief Executive, to make minor editorial changes, and noting the publication of the annual plan will occur within a month of adoption. Do I have a mover for those recommendations? Moved by the Deputy Mayor, Lawrence Kirby. Seconder, Councillor Coford. Any debate on that? I'll invite opening remarks.
Yeah, I'm happy to move this adoption and the recommendations here. Just firstly to thank staff for the work that they've put into getting us to this point in this annual plan and being able to present the rates increase, which we'll approve shortly, at 7.8%. I have to say, when I was sitting in December and we were first presented with the first percentage rate increase of 14, I think there was a bit of a ripple of major concern around the table. So it's great to be able to get it down to that level. I would like to see us work hard to ensure that we are keeping our rates increases to levels which are affordable for our community, and I think this is a first signal, but as we go into the long-term plan, I would appreciate the conversations continuing to be how we can be more efficient in our use of funds and getting the best outcomes for our community, so the community sees that we're not taking our responsibility lightly around their money. But yes, again, thank you to the staff who've put a huge amount of work into this this annual plan, and the previous council as well, because they were the ones who created the long-term plan. that has landed us with this year 3 of the annual plan. So just to acknowledge the previous councillors and mayor who are no longer at this table, but put work into getting us to this point. So those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kirby. Do I have any other further comments? Councillor Wilson.
Just briefly, I like that you've presented real dollar numbers so that people can see what the, what the actual impact is, because percentages can be horribly misleading. So I think that's really, really helpful. Also, just congratulations on putting this thing together. And Darren, your first annual plan at KCDC, may this be the first of many. And Janet, your first as mayor. So well done. I think it's a good plan. There are councils around the country who are wrestling with double-digit numbers, and in many cases, in order to not have double-digit numbers, they've had to make significant cuts to services. And I'm really pleased to see that we aren't doing that. In fact, our service levels remain high. So long may that be the case. And yeah, congratulations.
Councillor Cooper.
Yeah, I've never been happy with the 7.9 or 7.8. I think I made that quite clear through our workshops and discussions. However, I certainly acknowledge that that endpoint is an encumbrance of the long-term plan, and we're sort of stuck with it from previous elected members, and acknowledging the good work of this council to keep it at that, bearing in mind the inflation raging throughout the country and with that the world, particularly on our big projects, and such as operational costs. So yeah, I concur. A good job to keep it in line with the long-term plan. I just comment that for us moving forward into our next long-term plan, the elected members and council should be laser focused at trying to reduce that even lower and looking at how we can do that. So, yeah, thank you.
Councillor Hanford.
Yeah, not much else to say. I just massive thank you to Mark and the rest of the team as well for all of the opportunities along the process to feed in and for kind of continued iteration and conversation. That was, I know, definitely something that I really appreciated, so thank you for that. And also just, yeah, trying to obviously strike that balance through conversations around rates and rates increases with ensuring affordability so our community can still keep afloat in what is kind of a current cost of living crisis, but also that we're investing in kind of intergenerational equity and supporting outcomes for our community and delivering on resilience and outcomes that will shape the future, one that's better for the next generation. So I just think we've got to strike that balance, and I think where we've landed with this will stand us in good stead for having long-term plan conversations that do kind of strike that balance. So yeah, just wanted to add that to the conversation.
We also have Councillor Halliday on Zoom. I'll just wait to be unmuted.
Thank you, through the chair. To talk about the comments that have just been made by others as well. I love the format of the report. I really like the addition of the breakdown. I think it was about showed where 78% of the spending went, and the different breakdowns of where that went. Really enjoyed that. Thank you very much. And just a very simple docket to document to understand. I think what's important in this coming triennium is our top 10 priorities. And the fact that they've been incorporated into the annual plan, even though they weren't part of the long-term plan process, I think is excellent and gives us a lot of clarity around where we're going to go with outcomes. So very much looking forward to the delivery of those over the next 12 months. I'm also in Mr. Cooper's camp with regards to the rates increase. I do appreciate the need for funding. I don't disagree with that at all. It's just the method that we have to go about, or we're forced to go about due to legislation. I note that we've got the local government reform coming up. There are recommendations there that the whole system with regards to finances needs to be overhauled, and I firmly am a believer of that. I believe that our rate scenario is pretty much all maxed out with regards to this, and I look at it as fundamentally being backdoor taxation, and we should be getting more support, more funding coming back through central government so that we can actually do the job that I fully believe local government and especially our council has the skills to do. Local knows local. I'm 100% behind that. And I think it's important that we are receiving the funding from government. We're very, very centralised in that space with regards to taxation, and more needs coming back to local council so we can get on, do the mahi that we know needs to be done to look after our local communities. After saying that, thank you very much for putting this together. Mark, I know you and your team worked very, very hard in this space to create documents, and thank you very much for incorporating the additional bits and pieces that you've developed over the past 12 months to make this report more understandable and easier to understand for the general public. I really do appreciate that. I did have a couple of questions. I was a little bit surprised that we didn't have more, but that's something I can take offline. It was nothing too dramatic. And usually for me, it's just clarifying some things I think the community would be interested in. So, yeah, I'll be happy to support this annual plan moving forward. But again, very interested in the conversation about how we're going to receive our funding in the future, because personally, I don't think we can be increasing rates at this rate in an ongoing manner. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Martin, and my apologies if you did intend to ask more questions.
No apologies required, Janet. I could put my hand up. There was no issue with that at all.
And you did. You had the microphone. I thought you would carry on if you had more questions. But I agree with a lot of what Martin's just said. I was going to bring up the future of local government review as well. If we had actually stuck with the work program and the long-term plan, we would have had a far larger rates increase actually than what we see in front of us today. And I think huge credit to staff for the enormous amount of work that went in to bring it down to the figure that we see in front of us today, which, as has been acknowledged, is quite a substantial amount lower than some of the other councils are wrestling with across the country. The community's faced with a cost of living crisis. We're also faced with increased costs as an organisation, and that's part of what's feeding in to these ongoing increases in rates. We do have an opportunity through the future of local government reform to try to make some adjustments to the funding mechanisms, and there are some really great actual practical suggestions in there rather than just an acknowledgement that it's broken and needs to be fixed, including some direct funding from central government paying rates on land that they own, which would make sense to me, and some other mechanisms in there as well. So hopefully in the future, councils won't have to go through this yearly agony that we go through to try to deliver things for our community in an affordable way within a system which is very challenging. So hats off to the staff for what we see in front of us today, which is not ideal, but certainly the best we can do right now. So with that, I'm not seeing any more lights, so would you like a right of reply, Councillor Kirby?
I'll just add one comment to that. We have a national election coming up, and one of the concerns about the Future for Local Government report is that it sits at a central government level and they have not responded to it in terms of any weight behind even engaging with it. And so I would suggest and maybe comment to our community that this might be an opportunity for us to push on our elected officials and in a central government manner and make this an election issue around what we're doing around local government, because it has a huge impact on our day-to-day living as people in this country when our councils are under pressure and rates keep going up, and there's no respite that's on, and I think central government does need to take cognizance of this report and actually act on it in a meaningful kind of way in consultation with us as local government and our local communities. So that's my reply. Thank you.
Thank you. I know that was the right of reply, but I didn't spot that the Chief Executive has his light on, so I'll invite him to make a brief comment.
Thanks, Your Worship, and I really just wanted to acknowledge the councillors and yourself at this table for allowing us to take a different approach in how we framed the annual plan for you, so that you could see where our starting point was and the challenges that were ahead, and then allowing us to take you into the belly of the financial workings so that you could really understand what it was that we were looking to do. And then also to the team for thinking outside of a normal approach and looking at what we had to assist us, other than those three main levers that we talked you through the workshop. So really happy of where we've been able to get to for the annual plan. Really cognizant of the challenges that are ahead, affordability being something huge for us, and looking at how we can maintain a level of service that is required amidst the reform storm that has been sitting with us for about 3 or 4 years now, and what will happen post-October. So thank you again.
Right, so I'll put those motions to the vote. All in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? That's carried. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So we now move on to item 10.2 on page 103 of our agendas, the setting of rates, due dates and penalties. We've already had a bit of a rates discussion, so there may not be too much debate around this one. Mark, take it away.
Thank you, Your Worship. So in terms of formalities, now that you've adopted the annual plan, thank you very much. The formality is now to actually set the rates. As has been said in the report, so the setting of the rate process is actually heavily audited by the Office of the Auditor General. So what we do every single year is we actually have Simpson Grierson independently review our setting of the rates process. So they review the funding impact statement rating policy, and they review the paper because that's what audit do. So it's really a tick in the box exercise to make sure that the cents in the dollar is accurate and that everything is legal. So so I can absolutely assure you that we've got the green light from Simpson Grierson. They are widely regarded in terms of local government and rate setting as the place to go, and they have been reviewing our funding impact statement rating policy for a number of years. So so everything in the report is factually correct. The only thing that I would like to bring your attention to is we are well aware that we have 5 community boards, but the rating system has only got 4 community rates, and that's because the representation review and the rating boundaries are completely separate and distinct. And if we had put in a community rate for the Raumati Community Board, effectively you are taking a community board's expenses and you are charging that to 8,000 ratepayers. So your community rate would have been about 3 times more than anybody else's. So that is something that we do need to look at, and we will do that as part of the rating system review, which we do as part of the long-term plan. So for now, the community boards have got their own budgets. Those are in one community rate, so it is being shared. And to make that change is actually full consultation. So that'll be part of the long-term plan. Apart from that, Your Worship, there's nothing more to highlight.
Thank you, Mark. I'm certainly relieved that everything in this report is in fact factual. And I'm sure the people of Raumati thank you for not tripling their community rate overnight, and we'll have an opportunity to look at that through the rating process. We make it work for Paikakariki, so I'm sure we can make it work for Raumati as well without having too much of a rates impost. Questions? Councillor Spires.
Okay, apologies, Mark. I meant to ask you this before the meeting, and I'm not sure that it's appropriate, but just wondering with the financial environment out there, are more people falling behind with paying their rates? Because with the penalties, we've got 10% on 10% on 10%.
Yeah. So So look, probably not. I can't say with certainty, but we've recently had a Lagoima asking us what our rates arrears is. People obviously we've got every year our rates goes up, so the amount of arrears will go up slightly. But the rates team work really hard, so they monitor those accounts. We do put in place payment plans. So you have the remissions, so people that qualify can actually get a rates remission. And those that actually do have remissions, the team contact every year just to see that they still qualify. In addition to that, the rates team do monitor accounts, and where people are falling behind, instead of just applying the 10% late payment penalty, the team actually make contact with them, understand what's going on, and we do put in place payment plans where the account is effectively flagged. And that means, so one of our requirements is you should sign up to a direct debit. You can pay your rates over a 12 to 24 month period, and as long as that payment plan is maintained, there are no penalties. So the team is really proactive. We haven't seen a spike in unpaid rates. It does happen. We do get unpaid rates, but I haven't seen a step change compared to other years. And that's really thanks to the proactiveness of the team.
Oh, that's really good to hear. Thanks, Mark, and it's good that it's so proactive and working well for people out there, because some people I know are struggling to live without paying rates as well. So thank you.
Any further questions? I'm not seeing any. No hand up on the screen. So I have some recommendations A through D on pages 103 to 106 of the agenda. Could I have someone to move those, please? Move Councillor Wilson, seconded Councillor Kirby. Right of introduction.
Yeah. Tax and spend, Wilson. No, I'm completely good with this. Just to reiterate what we said earlier, I did have a comment that I personally think rates penalties are an abomination. I think they're a further tax on the poor and the struggling. So any system that will help to ameliorate that. Very few people don't pay rates by choice. They don't pay rates because they can't afford it. They've got to struggle. They have to balance. And if you think about what the internal tensions are for those people in their lives, and it feels like this big monster thing is coming after you. So I've spoken to a number of people who found themselves in that situation, and it's a genuine struggle for them. So I think I'd be really happy that we had a system that was working to figure that out. Anyway, that little rave is over. But no, this is fine. I'm good.
Yeah, we'll take that on board and follow that up. Anybody else want to contribute to debate on this? Doesn't appear so. Martin, have you got your hand up?
No, but he's waving.
He's all good. I think he's just saying he's all good.
My apologies, Zach. That's a little bit frustrating trying to hit the right buttons. Look, actually, just building a little bit on the comments before around rates and our issues with rates. I won't repeat what I said last time. Other than that does need to be addressed, and I take on Councillor Kirby's views that we really need to push this hard in the upcoming elections. I'm intending to abstain from this vote in regards to my views around the rating system. I won't vote against them because I don't want to send that message as such, but I know that this will be passed. And I'm really doing that as a bit of a protest with regards to the government's approach with regards to how they treat our local councils with regards to funding, and the simple fact that that a different mechanism needs to be developed in this space, and at what point is enough enough. So that's my stance on this one. Other than that, very supportive of everything else that I'm seeing and everything as we move forward.
Thank you, Martin. Right of reply, Councillor Wilson? Waved.
No.
In that case, I'll put those recommendations to the vote. All in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? That's carried, noting Councillor Halliday's abstention. Thank you so much, Mark, and to the rest of the staff for the enormous amount of work that's gone into this. And it's a very good looking document, I have to say, too. Highly recommend a nosy through that document. So we're moving on to item 10.3, delegation of the Wellington Region Waste Management and Minimisation Plan consultation process to the Wellington Regional Waste Minimisation and Management Plan Joint Committee. That's a title. We've already noted your abstention, Martin, so I don't think we need to call a division. We just note that it was a unanimous vote. Would I be right, Steffi? Yeah, so your abstention is noted. Thank you.
You want this move?
Thank you. Robbie. We have Robbie Stillwell here for this paper, and Ninka in support.
Tēnā koutou, everyone. So I'll take the report on delegation of the WMP consultation process, sorry, it is a mouthful, to the Joint Committee as read, and then get straight into any questions and clarification on this process. Thank you.
So taking the report as read, taking any questions on this report. Councillor Spires.
Thank you. Number 15 on page 110, officers are considering holding specific public drop-in sessions. I just wondered if you've made a decision on that yet, or are you still considering?
Yeah, thanks for the question, Councillor. Yeah, so that has developed since I wrote this report, so we will definitely be holding drop-in sessions. They aren't specifically scheduled or planned, but that is something that we will be working on. And I think all councils are in the same boat, so local drop-in sessions will definitely happen.
Okay, great, thank you.
Good question. Any more questions? Councillor Halliday?
Through the chair, thanks for this, Robbie. Been great, great heading along to those meetings with you guys as well. It's a pretty simple question actually, and I'm pretty sure I know the answer to this one. But I'm assuming since we've delegated authority for the consultation process, we're also part of that consultation process. I'm assuming we can't submit into it as a council. Would that be correct? Because we're
So the question is, are we going to be consulted with as a council as part of this consultation process?
No, it's, I'm assuming we won't be submitting. We're passing a delegation of the consultation process to the regional body, and I'm picking that we as a council, because we're doing that, we can't submit in the consultation process into it. Would that be right?
You happy to?
It'll be the general community that can submit.
So this is the consultation process that we're delegating.
So I think the answer to your question, Martin, is yes. So I think we just answer yes.
Yeah. So the delegation process, something we've had to clarify throughout this is that it doesn't disadvantage anyone really from accessing it. So our council will be able to submit on that.
Oh, okay. That surprises me. Okay, that's cool. Thank you for the clarity.
I think the jury might be out on that a little bit. So, but we'll get an answer to that question, a full answer to that question to you, Councillor Halliday. So we have some recommendations here. Can I ask somebody to move those? Moved Councillor Wilson. Seconded Councillor Coe. Any debate? Councillor Wilson, right of introduction.
Just very briefly, I'd just really like the idea that we're taking a broader approach a broader regional approach to all of these issues. I think we're going down that track anyway on a whole bunch of things. But in terms of waste minimisation, I think I've always thought actually that there's a huge amount of potential for Kapiti to tap into some of the other resources that the region's developed, some of which we've let go. So yeah, I think this is a very positive step for Kapiti Coast in particular.
Thank you. Councillor Halliday.
Support what Councillor Wilson was just talking to. This regional approach to our waste and our waste minimisation. Generally, our whole approach is great, but it's also good to see that we've got a local action plan, our own one, and each one will have one that also ties into this and will be updated in an ongoing way. So fully supportive of this process and very much looking forward to the outcomes that will come from it.
Anybody else? Right of reply? Waived. So I'll put those recommendations. All in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? It's carried. Thank you. I don't think Martin abstained this time. We don't need a division because it was unanimous. Right, so with the leave of the table, I'm going to skip over to 10.5 so that Robbie can not have to pop up and down from the table. And we'll move on to the Waste Management and Minimisation Plan, Local Action Plan, Regional Activities and Objectives. And after this paper, we will take a 10-minute break. I've had notice of some recommendations which we need to have a little look at. Late notice. Thanks. Okay, so we're on item 10.5. Waste Management and Minimisation Plan, Local Action Plan, Regional Activities and Objectives.
So I've provided the Kapiti Local Action Plan, which is ready to be finalised for the draft WMMP, as well as the draft regional actions and proposed objectives, which are also still being workshopped and developed concurrently as we request feedback. So we'll get into any comments, questions. Thanks.
Any questions? Councillor Halliday, have you got a question? Yes.
Bear with me a little bit here. On page 131, and I've just got to look at my agenda, sorry. We've got objectives, key definitions. It says role of council, and it looks at the regulator one there. It says our regulatory teams provide services such as liquor licensing, building consenting, which are important for business success. I noted all the other roles of councils had how that ties into waste minimisation, and I didn't really think that that particular definition did in any formal way. Was that intentional? Because I was wondering whether something perhaps along the lines of saying maybe using the regulatory tools to encourage or enforce waste minimisation through licensing or consenting might be more appropriate. I was wanting to hear a comment on that.
Thanks, Councillor Halliday. That's a really good question. That has been changed. I think this initial list was cut and paste, to be honest. So since we've developed it, we've had the exact same feedback as you've just provided. So it will be changed to a waste-specific regulatory example.
Cool. Okay, then. That's great. Now, sorry, page 132. I've got number 3. I've got number 3 here, but I think Kapiti. Oh, it must be the Kapiti. Oh, sorry, on the Kapiti Coast Action Plan. Sorry, it's page 133. It supports principles of Te Māori and provides support for to local EV groups. I was wondering whether that should perhaps, rather than being local EV groups, or maybe local EV groups or local mana whenua groups as such. That's something that can perhaps just be considered as a wording for that. Don't need necessarily an answer back on that, or feel free to answer that one if you like. The number 5 didn't quite make sense to me either. Provide annual contestable business waste management grants and explore options for sustaining business grants process. I maybe just drop the word business there. Options for streamlining the grants process, because they're not two different processes you're talking about there, are they? Or are they? There's a business waste minimalisation grants process. Is there a separate business grants process?
So they've been split into two. So action number 4 is the community waste levy grants. The reason it was split into two was because we're looking at streamlining the business waste specific process through Pakihi Toitu o Kapiti, the sustainable business platform. Right. The feedback we've been getting from the business waste grants is that it doesn't really work with the timeframes. There's a lot of local businesses that are interested in them, but they find the timeframes sort of prohibitive, as well as the application process. After the local action plan's adopted, we can revisit our climate grant policy. So that's why they were separated into two separate actions.
Okay, that's fair enough. Number 6 talks to assisting educational institutions, waste management operations, blah, blah. I was wondering whether we could add something in there which was making youth aware of waste minimalisation options for home education or something along that sort of line. Do you think that's required? Or I'm a firm believer that for people, if you like, taking responsibility of their own footprint, if you like, and I certainly believe that a great tool for that is our education facilities, our younger children, and them taking those learnings into their home environment.
Martin,
yep.
you first of all, this is quite a lot of detailed questions that probably would be better taken offline, and secondly, you're straying a little bit into debate. So would it be okay if you flick these through in an email, CC us all in, and we'll get back to you with some answers.
Yep, that's quite acceptable. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Martin. That would be really appreciated. Because it's a really interesting line of questioning, but probably deeper than we've got time to go into right now in this context.
That's absolutely fine.
We can always organise a separate briefing too if we feel like we need that.
Oh, no, I didn't think one was required.
Yeah. Thanks, Martin. Councillor Coe. Just wait. Just waiting for the microphone.
Thank you. Question for the Chief Executive. This action plan requires significant engagement with households and business owners, well, the community at large, really. I just want to be reassured that we have sufficient resource within our organisation to undertake the level of engagement that is implied with this, because I think it's really important that we, bring these issues to, a high level of awareness in our community.
Thank you. Thanks, Councillor Ho. Really good question. I mean, I just draw our attention back to the first item that was on our agenda, which is the annual plan and the adoption of. And so, yes, you can be assured that we have the necessary allocation, funding, and people in our team to ensure that we work through the consultation process.
Thank you, Darren. Okay. So I think we're moving to the recommendations now. Do I have a mover? Councillor Kirby, seconding Councillor Wilson. Right of introduction.
Yeah, so my comment is thank you for this process. I look forward to the opportunities that we have to provide feedback and to get into some of the detail that Councillor Halliday has started to open up through his questions as we move forward to getting it out to consultation in August.
So I'll put those recommendations A and B on page 127 of elected members' agendas. All in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against. That's carried. Thank you very much, Robbie. Really wonderful, brilliant reports and really important work that's going on regionally, and I realise it's a huge amount of work, so So thank you, and some brave attempts to answer some very difficult questions as well, and we'll take more offline if that's okay. Thank you. We'll now take a 10-minute break. I've just had some very late notice of some extra recommendations, which we'll just have a wee look at in the break, and we'll come back at 25 to 11. Thank you.